All right, welcome back, guys. This lesson would be about Forex Factory and why Forex Factory is important. Okay, Forex Factory tells you all the news that would impact how the market performs. Okay, so I'm showing you last week's Forex Factory report. As you can see, on Monday there's nothing. Tuesday we had CPI for the U.S. Wednesday we had these for the U.S., the PPI for the U.S., and also we have the unemployment for the U.S. as well. So this week was a U.S. week. Now the U.S. market is very significant. In the Forex market, it definitely impacts the Forex market. Okay, and because of all of these, that's what's happening last week. You got a lot of ranging movements. Usually during CPI times, you get a lot of volatility, which is why you see these big candles here and the market is just moving sideways. So you had that on silver, you had it on gold, and then you had this on platinum as well. Okay, and I'm sure if you go through the rest of the market, you will see the same thing. Okay, so how do we use Forex Factory? Okay, every day before you trade, you need to look at Forex Factory and see what is happening on the day that you're looking to trade. Okay, so for example, last week was CPI. You had CPI, you have PPI, you have the retail report, and you have the unemployment as well. Okay, now last week was a week of no trades, right? The advice I would give you is don't trade on a CPI day and don't trade on a CPI week. Okay, now if you are going to trade, what I would say is, if you're a day trader, so you see here the CPI report was coming out on 1:30. Okay, don't trade 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. Right, 15 minutes before, you don't know how the market is going to anticipate it, and then the CPI report comes out 15 minutes after. You don't know how. Prior to the 15 minutes, you don't know how the market would respond to it. Okay, so it's advisable to be out of the trade before CPI day. I mean, you even have some prop firms that will tell you if you do trade on CPI days, you will lose your account. Okay, because a lot of people lose a lot of money on CPI days. You see, you also had President Trump speaks. When President Trump speaks, it affects the market. Right? Now, for swing traders, for me, this week seems to be a very significant week for the U.S. market. So I would advise swing traders not to trade when it's looking like this, right? Or at least reduce your leverages when it's like this. The higher time frame, it doesn't really affect the higher time frame as much as it affects the lower time frame. Okay, so let's go to the 5 minute. And you can see here, CPI week, you can see the massive crash down here on the 5 minute. Okay, and the whole week the market was moving sideways. Nothing was happening that whole week. Okay, let's see. All right, see, nothing was happening that whole week on a 5 minute time frame. Okay, now how do I navigate the Forex Factory? Okay, you see this little that looks like a Gulf stick. Well, I don't know what they call it. Thing that you put in the floor, and then you put the golf ball on top of it, right? Whatever that is called. You go there. This is the filter, okay? And you filter your folders, the ones that you want to see. For me, I'm only interested in the high impact news and the medium impact news. Okay, it's no point having no impact and this very low impact. Okay, it doesn't move the market, right? So the medium impact and the high impact news, you click those, you unclick the other ones, you make sure all the currencies are checked, you make sure all of these are checked as well, okay? And then you apply the filter. All right, I've already applied the filter, so I wouldn't do that. I'll just click cancel. And then once you do that, you would only see what you really need to see. So let's go back into it. And if we click here and apply, if we click all of them and apply the filter, you will see there's a lot of information there. Right, you see Monday, you get a whole bunch of information that you don't really need. Right, it doesn't affect the market. This one here, Tuesday, which was CPI day. Again, wait, hold on. Okay, yep, CPI day. Yeah, all of this here, which doesn't, it just makes it a bit too clunky, too much information. You want to get to the precise information that you need. You don't need on all these unnecessary information, okay? And you can see it looks more cleaner here, the relevant information. If you do want to read it, what CPI is about, you can click this folder here, and then the drop down comes, and it tells you everything you need to know. Okay, CPI, what does that mean? Consumer Price Index. How does it, the usual effect, actual greater than forecast is good for currency. You can see how it affected the market and how the forecast, how people forecast it would affect the market, right? You can see that the next release here is February 11th. So you can prepare yourself for that. Put it in your calendar. Put it in your calendar so you know what to expect. But you would be looking at this every single day, right? Every single week, every single day to see when these things are coming. So what you need to look out for is CPIs for the US. If you have CPI for the UK, EU, Canada, New Zealand, all of these things, it doesn't really affect the market. So you don't need to worry about these ones. Only the US ones, because the US is a stronger market. Okay. So the CPI, unemployment, and non-farm, what is it now? What is it called? I think it's the non-farming report. Let me see, where is it? That's it. Non-farm employment. Okay. When you see that for the US, you don't trade on these days. As you can see, it's red and it's high impact. Non-farm employment trade. Right. Just be mindful of these ones. The biggest impact is the CPI for the US. Okay. So next week or this week coming up, you see we have Canada CPI. Don't need to worry about that. It doesn't really affect the market. Then you have the UK GBP CPI. On Thursday, we have the unemployment claims. So just be mindful of that. Again, this one is not as, it doesn't affect the market as much as the CPI. Okay. And that's it, really. Manufacturing report, that doesn't really. You also have to look for when Trump is speaking, and also chair when the Fed is speaking. So Jerome Powell, when they're speaking, that affects the market as well. Okay. So that's it. All right, that's all you really need to know about Forex Factory. You come in here, you do your due diligence, you check this before you go into the market, and then once you're sure that you don't need that there's no CPI or non-farm change, or Trump is not speaking on this particular day, then you're good to trade for the day. All right. So that's it. All right. Peace.